On this episode, we're going back into Full Moon territory to check out one of their series that involves a group of small killer dolls. That is about half of their series. This one's Demonic Toys, which is about some toys that are demonic. And let's check out their timeline and see if it's actually any better than the Puppet Master one. It has to be better than the Puppet Master one.
Back in 1992, little toy villains were a slam dunk for Full Moon, so they went back to the well with Demonic Toys, which was actually written, believe it or not, by a pretty new to the game David S. Goyer. You know, the guy who wrote The Dark Knight and Dark City, and presumably other movies with Dark in the title.
Yep, that David Goyer.
So we have two cops, Judith and Matt Cable, and hey, his name is Matt Cable, and Goyer is right now writing the Sandman TV show and also spearheaded the Constantine TV show, and he's clearly a fan of Vertigo Comics, so you can bet that name is not coincidental. Matt is killed, so he possibly becomes a raven, and there's a chase into a nearby toy factory, of course, where we meet a few of the demonic variety. There's Jack Attack, Grizzly Teddy, Mr. Static, and the scene-stealing baby Oopsie Daisy. At one point, a security guard is watching Puppet Master on TV, setting this film in a different continuity from those films, which will be an interesting point later. And we also meet Mark, who I guess is our hero, but he drinks and drives, smokes while preparing people's food, and sniffs girly mags. So,
yeah, ew.
The dolls are using people they kill to conduct a ritual, trying to raise a demon that appears as a small boy who says it's been 66 years since the last time that he tried to be born. And that was in 1925, according to this calendar, which would make this film set in 1991. So Baby just kind of has a knife, but Static straight up has laser blasts, and Jack gets blasted and smushed. Baby gets shot, as does Static and Grizz, but instead of dying for some reason, he becomes a full-size bear monster. They capture Judith in an attempt to possess her unborn child by raping her and taking it over. And the demon appears, and she's rescued by a heroic toy soldier as Mark crushes the bear. The devil guy is killed, and the soldier is revealed to be her unborn baby's soul. 1 year later, 1993 gave us our first follow-up, and yeah, it was kind of weird, because it was Dollman versus Demonic Toys. You see, in 1991, there was a movie featuring Jack Death himself, Tim Thomerson, as a intergalactic cop who comes to Earth named Brick Bardo. Only problem is, due to size differences, he's only 1 foot tall here. And then, to make things more confusing to anyone walking straight into this one, it also crosses over with the 1992 film Bad Channels, in which aliens try to take over Earth and shrink people down. At the ending of that film, the aliens are defeated and everyone is restored except for one girl who remained tiny. Phil Fondacaro is here, which is always a good sign, and Judith is back, obsessed with the toy factory, and a dead homeless man brings back the demonic ones, fully restored. But Grizzly is absent and replaced by this guy named Zombatoid. Baby Oopsie Daisy's voice has also changed, now being done by the legendary Frank Welker, who has actually come up quite a bit recently on the channel. And then we meet the shrunken nurse Ginger, who stands in front of a calendar telling us that it's June of 1992. So we're 1 year after the last Demonic Toys film. And wait a second. Nurse Ginger was shown restored to full size at the ending of Bad Channels. It was Bunny that was stuck tiny. So I guess they're retconning the ending of that film.
That's not confusing at all.
Brick and Ginger meet up, and we get plenty of flashbacks to the other movies, and Judith enlists Dolly to help her fight the toys. Phil gets shot, as does Judith, and then Static, and wait a minute, it's a year later. Shouldn't Judith have had her baby by now? I mean, no one mentions it at all, but she was 30 weeks pregnant in the last film, and this is a year later, so something's happened there. I mean, think about it. There's only a few options. I mean, one, she lost the baby, which would be weird since it seemed like there's some sort of angelic spirit all ready to go. Number two, she aborted the pregnancy, which would be an odd move considering she had already met him. That'd be like throwing salt on the wound. And number three, she gave it up for adoption, which I guess would be the most likely possibility. Like, she had met the spirit of the child and knew she couldn't just abort it, but without Matt involved, she knew she couldn't do it on her own, so she gave it up. Baby says the Demon Kid thing was 67 years ago, and the last film was a year ago, so they're spot on with their time frame. And Zombatoid gets fried, Jack splats, and now Ginger is threatened with rape, so I guess that's a theme here. And finally, Baby is blasted, and Brick and Ginger ride off into the sunset, never to be seen again. So now things get weird since we go to 2004's Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, which sounds like the next logical step for Full Moon, right? Well, here's the thing. This technically sorta kinda isn't a Full Moon movie. This was actually put together by Sci-Fi and holds a weird spot in the Puppet Master series since Charles Band himself says that he doesn't see it as canon to the other series, but he seriously thinks he can use the term canon in the same sentence as the words Puppet Master. I mean,
did he even see any of those movies and their lack of, any continuity?
So yeah, it's a Christmas movie and directed by TerraVision and Subspecies director Ted Nicolau, and the Fell Dog is here, playing the dad of a teenage girl, which wouldn't be too weird. I mean, he was 33 at the time, so if he had a kid like right out of high school, it would make sense. But I kind of think he's supposed to be playing much older here, as evidenced by, he's wearing glasses and has some gray tints in his hair. Oh, and he says all of his lines with an Eastwood growl, like he's some kind of cranky old man or something.
Not just any blood, dear. Toulon family blood.
Anyway, he's a toy maker, and he recreates the Toulon formula and animates the puppets, although they apparently didn't have access to the original models and recreated new sculpts, and they look off. They're like one of those off-brand toys that you find in the bootleg markets. I mean, something's just wrong. So there's this evil toy company led by TV Weird Science Lisa, and she's raised the toys who are equally as off-brand, especially Jack Attack. I mean, for real, look at this thing. And Mr. Static is missing. Sharp has a deal with a demon, and every time that I see this movie, I forget how ridiculous that Corey's running is, and it is absolutely hilarious every time. They upgrade the puppets with robot parts, making, I guess, Uber puppets.
They're like cooler than ever.
Not so much.
The puppets finally face the dolls at about an hour and 10 minutes in, and the demon is called up in a Santa suit. And there's a big brawl, but it all just kind of ends when the sun rises and the Sharp gets taken down to hell. And it's just kind of over. There's no date in this one, and it's out of continuity with the others, although it's kind of possible that it can be. I mean, there's nothing that really contradicts the other two, except for the fact that Puppet Master was a movie in the first Demonic Toys, but I guess that could just be a similar-ish movie or a film based on the events of the Puppet Master story. I don't know. Either way is fine. So we'll just set it in real time, 2004. It took 6 more years for the toys to return with 2010's Demonic Toys 2, Personal Demons, which was directed by William Butler, and oddly enough, it seems to pick up right after the ending of the first film, completely forgetting either sequel, as someone picks up the pieces of the toys as they were at the ending of that film and putting them back together, although only Baby and Jack. Grizzly and Static are not restored. Leslie Jordan shows up, and a group heads to a gothic Italian castle, and the toys are here, as is Selena Luna. So, Even though the intro is right after the original, we don't know how much time has passed, so this isn't necessarily still 1991. A new toy named Divoletto is introduced, a toy from the 14th century, and he brings Baby and Jack back to life, and Oopsie's voice has changed again, and this time it's voiced by Jane Wiedlin. Yes, Jane Wiedlin of the Go-Go's.
I guess Baby Oopsie's walking like an Egyptian. That was the Go-Go's, right?
Eventually, after endless walking around the castle, the toys begin the attacks, and there's some Evil Deadish antics, and there's a final showdown in some underground passages. Divoletto is smashed, which releases the demon inside of him, and Jack and Baby are beheaded, with the demon taking on the spirit of the castle back down to hell with it, although the very ending hints that the danger is not over. They don't give the date in this one. The only link to the original is that opening scene, and we don't know how much time has passed between that scene and the events of the film, so let's just go ahead and set those in the present day, and we'll have this film take place in 2010. The characters did have their own comic book series back in '93, right after the first film was out, from Eternity Comics, and takes place 8 years after the events of Demonic Toys. In the series, the characters all change their appearance slightly, with Jack Attack growing arms even, and it features Judith and her son, now 8 years old. So I guess the comic book version of the characters reveal the fate of the child, even if the films did not. Now, a little later this year, Full Moon has promised a return to the franchise with Baby Oopsie, apparently a 2-part film featuring a solo outing of the foul-mouthed doll. Bill Butler returns to the helm, and looking at the trailer, it appears as if Baby Oopsie has a brand new design and a brand new voice and an entirely different aesthetic for the film.
So there you have it. It's 4 movies that could technically be several different continuities. It seems as if the Demonic Toys 2 was trying to erase both of the Versus movies, but it could very easily coexist in the same thing. It could just be that those particular dolls were stitched up and embodied with the spirits of the dolls, which I don't necessarily think are one particular unit. It could very easily be different doll forms in different movies, just with the spirits of them within, I guess. But if anything, I think that the only one that is definitively not within the timeline is Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. But again, that one could be, if you wanted to put it in there, just with the same notion of these are the dolls and their spirits in different vessels. Pretty easy to go that route. But for the most part, each movie could be seen on its own. And they're entertaining. They're typical Full Moon stuff. I'd put them in the middle rung of their roster, where they're not really as fun as some of the other ones, but they're enjoyable. They're a pretty good time. I wasn't mad about watching any of these. Even Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys is just absurd and fun to watch because of how stupid it is. Let me know what you thought of these down below. Let me know what you thought of Demonic Toys, and if you're looking forward to the Baby Oopsie Daisy movies, I guess multiple movies, and comment that. Please like the video, subscribe to the video, share it out there onto the world, and of course check out my patrons on patreon.com/movietimelines. Help supporting the channel. These guys do it. You can as well too by going to patreon.com/movietimelines. I appreciate that, but I also appreciate you just watching the video. Thank you for doing so. We'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.